So we're going to use this 3D print of a spreader bar that allows us to make a little hanger for our vehicles to make Christmas ornaments out of our gaming or modeling hobby. You can see here there's a Sturm Tiger with its little hanger bar and a hook on top that allows it to be a nice Christmas ornament. So I've got a few models here. There is a Hippo 2, so we can have our hippopotamus for Christmas. Sherman Easy 8. I also have a few of the 3D prints that we're going to use. Some wire. This wire I'm going to use to wire tie the ends of this spreader bar. You could also just glue them together, or you could use whatever wire you had. If you had old twisty ties, or even those really small zip ties would work just fine. And then just because I'm too lazy to make them, here's some ornament hooks. You could also just cut these ornament hooks in half or in quarters and use those as your twisty tie. I have a multi-tool just so I can cut the ribbon that I'm going to use. And so I can have a pair of pliers to tighten down those ties and to cut the wire. You can just use this as like that cheap party ribbon. This works just fine. That's what I had on that Sturm Tiger. You could also use something a little bit fancier, like this cloth ribbon here, a little bit nicer, a little bit heavier. If you have heavy models, I would suggest going with something a little bit nicer. I would also suggest gluing all of this together as opposed to just relying on the clamp force, because in the 3D print, there are these teeth here, and then there are the opposite teeth here, and those together, when you clamp them, should hold that. But I wouldn't trust it with a expensive model or a heavy model. And these are black prints. I just spray painted them white to make them more ornament flavored. Let's go ahead and build one. Need about 1 inch. And then if you look right here, there's a little round and there's a little place for that to go through. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pre-assemble, bend this in half. And then just with my fingers, I'm gonna give it like half a turn. That's just enough for it to hold together, so I can do this with it. Now, let's plan on doing our hippo. So this is our Hippo 2, and I'm gonna use my fancy ribbon that I got. Very nice. And I'm actually gonna do this sideways. So when we saw the tiger, the Sturm Tiger, we can see that the spreader bar is used sideways versus the way it's going to go around and inside the track. So the nice thing about this is it works for pretty much any tank model. So what we're going to do with this guy is we're going to go the other way, and I'm going to go underneath each set of tires. So I'm going to go behind this tire here, probably up underneath this, if I can get it in there. And then I'm going to go between the two rear tires if I can get it in there. Go just about 12 inches. And you can make these longer or shorter as you need to. It entirely depends on how you want to hang your model. Then if you want to see what I'm doing, let's get all the twists out of it and set the ribbon on top of itself. You could also put a little dab of glue on there right now if you wanted to. A little bit of super glue would not hurt. And this model can take up to a 1/4 inch piece of ribbon here. So if you're going to do anything more than a 1/4 inch piece of ribbon, then you should scale up this little bar, but anything smaller will fit in those teeth. And just to get that locked in on each side, I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers. And I'm just going to use this as a wire tie and just tighten this down until it's grabbed that. So now this is grabbed, the other side is still open. You can actually see the thickness here is kicking this side open, but that's okay for our purposes. I'm going to do the same thing with my other piece of ribbon. Now I have that second one on and I can really tighten this down. I'm going to go back and tighten down the first side one more turn. And then what I'm going to do is simply fold the wire over, just so it's not pokey anymore. We're making Christmas ornaments, so we don't want them to be violent things. So now I have 2 loops in my little spreader. Now what we can do is we can do one of 2 things. We can either put our model in it, which I think we're going to do, or we could put our hook in the top. And if you find that you have balance issues, you could actually hook not in the center, but on one side or the other, and that'll give you a little bit of balance one way or the other if you want to hook here or here. And if you need the tiniest difference, you could actually hook into one of these two bottom triangles and get just a little bit of shift if you need some forward or back shift. So we can see that this is a little bit long. Right? We can see that the front is a little bit low. So I could do one of two things. I could either hook from the front here. Now it will hang this flat. Or I can open this up and I can shorten this. So the only other thing I need to add, I can get one of these hooks I got at the store. And now this is a treeable ornament. And you can see that this is really loose. This is tight here. So we have a lot of front load. So I am going to go ahead and shorten this front piece. So now we can see that this does hang quite a bit flatter. No looseness front or back on these. We can see that this works pretty well. Actually, this back one's twisted. And we could shorten it up, right? If we wanted it shorter, we could definitely bring it all the way down to here and pull all the extra slack out of that. Let's do another one. Let's do this Sherman tank here. We're going to do the spreader bar sideways in the same way that we did the Sturm Tiger, not lengthwise the way we did the truck. You can see that this is going to go here. One thing I would suggest is that if you're doing a larger scale, these are 152 models, so they're just a little bit big for 28 millimeter. This is a 60 millimeter spreader bar. If you're going to go up on the scale of your vehicles or down, go ahead and scale this up or down to match. This should be slightly negative as it comes in from this point down to up underneath and inside the treads. It's just going to hang better if it goes negative here. You can also, if you don't want to pre-bend the wire, you can take a straight piece, slide it through the holes here, and then just push it across. And the only glue you actually need for this is to put this girder piece onto the spreader. You don't really need glue for the rest of this. You could, of course, glue any part of this you want to. Approximately equal length. You could actually test it just by doing this and seeing if it pulls one way or the other and doesn't feel parallel. For those of you that have the historical know, you'll actually notice that there are hooks here and here on a Sherman, and the reason that is because these were built to be craned off of a ship and onto a dock. But because other countries didn't have the incredible logistic capability, they didn't crane their vehicles on and off of stuff as much as we did. So I tried to make a more universal solution. Just get it essentially inside the treads, and it will kind of figure itself out. You can just kind of wobble it forward and back. You can see on a Sherman, it actually wants to sit inside of the final drive humps. There are going to be some troubles with some models. We can see that the machine gun on this is going to give us trouble because it is right in the path of this ribbon. That's totally okay. We're just going to have to deal with that. Now, for the turret, we can put our turret on straight forward. We could also put our turret on at a sideways angle if we wanted to. And there we go. We have our Sherman Easy 8 as a nice little Christmas ornament. Now, you can do this with any vehicle really you can think of. On any tracked vehicle like this, we go front to back underneath the tracks. And pretty much everything, the tracks are low, the center of the body is high, Just run your 2 ribbons underneath there and you're good to go. You'll have, more or less balance in each direction, but it'll work on any tracked vehicle. On wheeled vehicles, you can do the same, right? You just come underneath the wheel and inside the wheel, front and back, and you can hang it like this, or you can do what we did with the hippo, and you can go behind or between the wheels and hang it front to back and get a good hang that way.